Sit back, relax, and grab your virtual seat because in this episode and every other episode, I'll be interviewing and collaborating with another high-level marketing and copywriting expert. If you haven't yet, go ahead and get some help along the way as we dish out and pinpoint some of the most profitable, powerful marketing and copywriting wisdom. Get some help with implementing everything you'll hear in this episode and other episodes by downloading my personal sales funnel swipe file stash at copyblueprints.com. Now, grab your virtual seat and listen in. So today we have Darrell White. He's the owner of Carte Blanche Media. They're a boutique agency. They focus on something it's underestimated, right? When a certain company has a great offer or they have a great copywriter, a great funnel, some companies either they have the need or they neglect to emphasize how important it is to have a great Facebook ads manager, to have their funnel managed, the conversions, the statistics. And Darrell White's been doing this for quite some time. I think, 4, 5, 6 years, and he's encountered all sorts of either issues he's had to solve, all sorts of ways to set up funnels that start with low ticket liquidating offers. And he's worked in quite a variety of niches and industries in general. So thanks for coming on, Darrell.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, John. I appreciate it.
Of course. So one of the reasons out of all the conversations we had, I think one of the most interesting things was there's some times where, I'll work with clients who we're doing maybe very high stakes campaigns or campaigns they want to generate multiple 5, 6 figures, per month. And a lot of the times it could be the strategy, it could be the copy, it could be the offers, but then there's that part they neglect of having a good ads manager to make sure he's on top of things. And I think one of the biggest issues marketers overlook is the audience targeting aspect. How do you feel? Are there like a set of issues, no matter how intermediate, how advanced some of your clients might be, are there certain issues that you run into over and over when it comes to handling the audience targeting?
Absolutely. I would say when you're talking about Facebook ads or meta ads, Instagram ads, even a lot of times people think that they could just boost a post there, which is kind of the absolute worst way you can handle things there. But boosting a post and they say, hey, I'll just kind of get this out there. But all that's really doing is doing broad awareness, not really directly to your target market specifically. By getting into actual ads manager, there you have the ability to go in and narrow down exactly who you're talking to, also kind of exactly where that placement is. So you can kind of narrow down as minute as like if you only wanted to show to mobile phones there in Texas, you can do that. But what a lot of people, when they're at least starting out, do is they just go ahead and say, okay, I did really good organic posts. A lot of people liked it. I'm just going to boost that. And it might just be boosting out to like maybe 5% of your target market there and 95% that is not your target market. So you really want to have somebody there is kind of taking a look at the targeting there, taking a look at the creative as well, and that's kind of your area of expertise there in the copywriting, but also kind of looking on where we're placing, who we're targeting, and making sure that it aligns with who your ideal target market is or persona is that you're reaching out to. So
that's sometimes it's funny. I think, me included at some point, sometimes it is we obsess over what's the great hook. What's the kind of angle we're going to use on the creative, the video script, the offer, the design. But it does start with simple things of your strategy. Like you said, if you're selling a coaching offer, or if you're selling, even a health and wellness offer that's your target audience is actually located in California, but then you set it up to where you're targeting Texas, you're not going to get any results. Or if you're using the wrong strategy of just boosting posts when you actually just need to run, a small cold traffic test. If that's not down, you can have the best creative in the world, But if you're targeting the wrong people or the wrong location, then it's going to be, it's just going to tank. So, what's your process of figuring out, of actually dialing in your audience targeting?
So I'd say kind of figuring out who that ideal persona is kind of the first step there. Like figuring out who they're trying to target, who they're talking to. Are we talking to a married woman who is in her late 40s there? Are we talking to kind of a young millennial guy who's in his early 20s or something? Those are two totally different personas there that you're reaching out to. You want to make sure that you are kind of talking and reaching out and targeting the right information on those different placements there. If we're kind of talking to somebody who's a little bit older, we might go a little bit heavy on the placements on Facebook side. We're going with somebody who's a little bit younger, we might go a little bit more heavy on the Instagram side. And at the same time, it could kind of vary depending on what country you're targeting. So if you're targeting here in the US or in Canada, for example, we're pretty much going to target and focus on Facebook and Instagram, but Facebook also owns WhatsApp, and any other country other than, basically North America, America and Canada there, any other country is using WhatsApp on a pretty regular basis there. So that might be Europe, that might be South America, that might be Australia and whatnot. So that might be kind of something that you might want to incorporate into your strategy. And you've got to also kind of play around with how you are using the creatives there. If we're kind of just doing the same creative, I don't know if you've ever kind of noticed, I've noticed this on some of my streaming services there, where they don't go in and edit the different creatives that they have. So they have, like, you have kind of a longer flat screen TV, and then you've got like a really fat or short image or something that was meant to go on a mobile there, and it just doesn't look right there as it's kind of showing up on a streaming service there. That same thing can happen on Facebook there as well if you're not putting your placements right there as well. So yeah.
What about, do you have a research process you start with, or do you usually recommend that your clients have some kind of research? Is it like sometimes it is what their end goals are, right? If their end goal
Mm-hmm.
is to scale, to generate a following or build a list through a low ticket offer, or if it's to generate a certain amount of money. But then usually you have to understand the bigger context, whether you get them involved, whether the background of the offer, why did you come up with, do you have like a research process, or do you actually, encourage your clients to send you a certain amount of info before you can even start?
Usually I do kind of lean a little bit more on the clients there to kind of tell me, hey, a little bit more about their client. But if they have done kind of no research whatsoever on who their target market is, obviously I'm going to kind of pull up my sleeves a little bit, so to speak, and do some research and kind of look into kind of what their ideal target market is really, on a case by case basis there. If we've got somebody who's has a clothing brand there, you can usually kind of figure out after a little bit, like, okay, their target market might be X or Y or Z. And if they're kind of somebody who is, I'd say one of my bigger clients right now is kind of in the pet care industry there. Well, we're talking to like pet owners there. So it kind of, we kind of start with that, and then we kind of get a little bit more detailed as we go on, and then see like, hey, do pet owners in this state work a little bit better for the branding that we have, or pet owners in this state work a little bit better. So part of that also is kind of A/B testing, I would say. So you're always kind of a lot of times when you kind of do your research there and look into things, you make assumptions about what your target market is going to be. But then when you actually put money against it, or actually like put it out there, you kind of find out very quickly that, things that you thought would work fantastic don't work that well. And things that you thought like, oh, this is just kind of a secondhand thought, work the best. there. And I've seen that happen time and time again there, especially with creatives there specifically. And you might have had this experience as a copywriter, like a copy that you thought was going to work really well and be really effective kind of plummets there, and like copy that you just kind of thought of offhand works magnificent there. And I've had that happen to you. Have you had that experience yourself there?
Yeah, that's extremely important. The A/B
Mhm.
testing it's ongoing, right?
Mhm.
It's if I create 5 Facebook ads and, sometimes it's 5, we test 5, and sometimes
Mhm.
I'll recommend I target different angles, 5 different appeals, 5 different pain points we target. And then, we just keep the top 1 or 2 ads. And then the ones that perform the best, we just focus on getting the most ROI. But A/B testing should be an ongoing thing, right? They're all A/B testing, not even just from, the sales page and marketing and direct response and the pricing standpoint, but A/B testing should start at the beginning, right? Right where you're generating leads, even if it's organic social media, if it's paid,
Mhm.
like, how do you feel about like A/B testing as an ongoing thing? Because sometimes clients or
Constantly.
people we work with don't think about A/B testing, right? And we kind of have to take it into our own hands. And
Yeah, no, no, you're constantly A/B testing. You're constantly kind of seeing, and after a while, there, ads do fatigue. There, like there's kind of a fatigue and boredom that happens after you've kind of used an ad that like worked really well the first week or worked really well for the first, in some cases, 6 months. But then after 6 months, people have seen this a little bit too much, and it's not really generating the results that it once was there. But usually, taking a look at and changing that on, making little tweaks on a weekly basis, making like bigger tweaks on a monthly basis and on a quarterly basis, making major changes, or introducing different products there, introducing new services that people might offer, and that is just kind of something that you do on a regular basis as an ads manager. Yeah.
how do you come up with like a, because there's probably a certain point where you can just, do the targeting, you can get the creative uploaded, then you optimize it for audience, make sure you're targeting the right audience. But does it get to a point for both you and the client where it's kind of almost not necessarily passive income or passive lead gen, but there's a point where it could almost just be cruise control, right? It probably takes some tweaking and setting up an effort in the beginning, but there's probably a point where if they come to someone like you who's more advanced and experienced, that they can just, at least you can just be like, hey, we're good. We check in every few weeks because we got it to where we need it to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say on average, it usually takes about, I'd say, in my opinion, like 1 to 2 weeks. If we're talking Facebook ads, if you kind of jump over to Google, it's like usually about 1 month or so is my understanding of like, and I've got a little bit of experience on the Google side of things there as well. But yeah, you're kind of initially setting things up, just seeing kind of what works, what doesn't, and then it does. You do usually tend to have a period of time where like you can coast for a little bit, but you can't coast kind of endlessly there, just kind of step away. And like, again, if you kind of leave ads going the same way for 6 months there, like you're probably going to see lower and lower results there than you did. So you got to constantly be looking at the data that you have, and I kind of give my clients a weekly update on their data and stats, and kind of tell them what's working well, what's not working well, make adjustments, and adjustments that we're kind of making to get things going even better than they're doing already, or like better than they were in the previous weeks there. Um, to a certain degree, yes, you can coast a little bit, but it's a constant thing that you're tweaking. You don't want to just sit there and coast, because then that's going to lead to eventually the sales falling, or the leads dropping, or the cost per lead increasing, or the cost purchase increasing there, and you don't really want that to happen, and you don't want ROAS or return on investment to drop either. So being um, being persistent about kind of looking at those things and making adjustments where you need to is, I'd say, an important part of being a good ads manager. So
Absolutely. And it's funny, right? Like, I was going to ask about your experience working with copywriters too, but there gets to that point where sometimes the goal is to have a huge push. We want to generate a large amount of leads or a large amount of sales, or we have a really large sale we want to promote, a special offer. But that's the thing about getting complacent. It's even true for competition or in sports where you're doing really well, and then you think it's time to kind of just relax and chill. But like you said, if the ROAS is good, all the leads and all the metrics look solid, it can start to drop. Or there's competitors who are swiping all your stuff, or your audience is fatigued or bored of your message, right? So
mhm.
it's long term, right? Because if a client wants long term consistency, and then that complacency could set in, right? Because that's kind of why they need guys like you to stay on top of things, to show them, there is a dip in, the ROAS, there's a dip in the click-throughs or the dip in the lead gen, right? Because I don't know how many, I don't know how many weeks or months is something. I guess it's hard to predict when an ad will start to fatigue.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as fatigue, you can't really predict. I mean, seen plenty of times where an ad works really well the first week. It kind of captures all the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. And then, another 2 weeks later, it's like, hey, we're not getting that many sales anymore, or we're not getting as many leads, or the leads are really expensive all of a sudden, and then you kind of have to go back to the drawing board and make adjustments to what you're doing there. Yeah, so I don't think coasting, just to kind of come back to that, is something that you ever really do. As you might coast a little bit, but you've always got to be diligent about kind of making some adjustments, paying attention to new things that are happening on different platforms there. And for example, an example that I'll give you here is like, I'd say like the, and anybody who's kind of done Facebook ads for a while knows, like, before iOS 14 and after iOS 14 was kind of a big major shift there. Kind of, I think in Google, there's like when Penguin happened, or when the last update there happened, there was a major shift there as well. But before that, you could target people based on how much their household income was, and you could do it pretty relatively accurately. Like, Facebook had that data, like, kind of like partnered with certain partners there, where you could kind of figure out, like, hey, I want to only target people who are making 100 to 150K, and you could target those people like all day and get those right people, and like it was really easy to kind of get results. And then iOS 14 happened, and you couldn't really target based off of their income. You had to make changes to how you were targeting, like, people for like financial related uh, financial related ads, employment related ads there, things of that nature. Political ads there became a different beast there, because there you had to kind of show that, like, hey, you weren't somebody in Iran that was running ads against A client or B client here in the US and whatnot. And that kind of made it shift. But that's kind of something that, as you kind of work in any profession, you're just kind of working and making adjustments there so that you can kind of get through those changes that happen, and kind of adjust to them accordingly. So, yeah.
That's an amazing point, because there's times where either if I have a client who has an in-house ads manager like you,
Mhm.
or I partner with someone like you, or they need to hire an outside consultant like you. Sometimes when guys like you and I partner, it can be explosive because the audience, sometimes it is, this offer has this many features, has this many benefits. And then it's Jon,
Mhm.
I want you to outline, the entire campaign, the messaging, the hook. And then it's Darrell, who are we targeting, right? Do we have the right people? Because if you know that it's people to making 100 to 150K, I can write an
Hmm.
amazing ad in the beginning that says right off the bat, single parents doing 100 to 150K, or fashion enthusiasts doing 100 to 150K,
Hmm.
etc. And then we can literally just use the audience targeting to build the ad. It's like if they're located in Texas, entrepreneurs doing 100 to 150K. Are you sick of running out of options in Austin,
Yeah.
Texas, of who to sell to or who to market, and you have all sorts of competition. But if guys like you and I don't partner on that level, then it can make my job frustrating or your job frustrating, right? Because sometimes the ad itself can be
Mhm.
built off the audience targeting, or the audience targeting could be built just based on the ad copy.
It, yeah, you just kind of reminded me of something that was a big challenge there, kind of right after well, during and after the iOS 14. It used to be if you kind of talked in your copy about you or like talking to the audience directly with using you or your, it would almost automatically get your ad banned there. And I know as a copywriter, like you and your are probably your favorite words there to some of your favorite words to use there. So like if you kind of have a novice copywriter, like or like a copywriter that is really experienced, but they're a novice on Facebook ads, so they kind of did that back in the day, they might get your ad account locked or banned there. But now it's become a little bit more nuanced. It used to just be a robot reading it. Now it's kind of still a robot, but like they have a little bit more nuance to it. So you can say you and your a little bit more easily there. But I know that used to be a huge problem about 3 years ago or so there. I mean, would you say you and your are kind of favorite words as a copywriter there? Am I just
It
guessing on
is.
that?
I think it's
Yeah,
everyone's
yeah,
favorite words, right?
yeah,
It's like we're
yeah.
scrolling through an ad, and it's if we hear an ad that's about the sale or something, it's interesting. But if
Mhm.
it's you, then it's, oh, they're talking about me. But that's
Yeah.
a really good point, which brings me to kind of my other question is we have there's pitfalls that a lot of people aren't aware of, and sometimes I'm not fully aware. Sometimes it is a big one is compliance, or it could be updates like iOS, right? Because
Hmm.
someone like you who's on the ball, who knows these things like the back of their hand, sometimes it can take, a client will have to out consult, a legal consultant to go through
Hmm.
compliance. But how do you, it seems like compliance has gotten a lot more strict about ad creatives over the past few years. I don't know if
Hmm.
that's something you've noticed trends or.
As far as ad creatives there, like I think they backed up a little bit off of the you and your for sure, because I've had multiple ads run here in the last 6 months that do have you and your in the copy, and copywriters are just kind of rejoicing about that, I think. But at the same time, yeah, like if you have kind of the wrong image, or if you're kind of talking about a certain um spicy topic, let's say, there, that could get your ads banned. And if you get too many ads banned there, then that could get your ad account banned. And if you get too many ad accounts, or if you get like your ad account banned or multiple ad accounts banned, that could get your business manager. And if you're kind of running an agency there, talking to an agency owner there, like getting your business manager banned on Facebook Meta, that's a huge headache, I would say. And kind of like getting through that process and over that process and talking to the right support people, and trying to get through the right channels instead of just sending an email to that goes into a void over at Facebook, is kind of a huge challenge as well. I'd say like the biggest things that have happened in, let's say, the last 2 to 3 years or so is, again, iOS like 14 before and after there was the change there now, again, where you're what's called special ad categories there. um, and that basically means, again, if you're talking to anybody who is kind of in finance, housing, employment there, or political there, they have less targeting. Basically, you can't really exclude out people in those areas there. At in some ways it's a good thing, because it's kind of like tamping down on discrimination there, which you could discriminate pretty effectively on Facebook ads before all this happened. But now, like it's not as great because of the fact that you can, if you wanted to target something, let's say you're a female financial planner that only talks to female clients there. You can't really target them in the same way that you used to be able to, because now you have to include men there, and like, so we're not being discriminatory to men or something to that effect. So there's kind of those challenges. There's kind of been the challenge with how much you can track on pixel and whatnot, and the fact that like some of those cookie items are going away here soon. There's the newest challenge, I would say, is that Facebook is, because of the fact that kind of some of that third-party data is going away, is trying its hardest to get people to buy things directly on Facebook. They're trying to get people to like set up for a shop. They're, even when you're kind of setting up an ad right now here, they will try their best to automatically default it to like, well, the people can buy this not only on Facebook, but they can also buy it on the shop, on Facebook shop, which is like Facebook's own, business center, rather than sending them to Shopify or something. Hey, why don't you buy it here on Facebook instead? So kind of, it's constantly changing, just as any industry is, right? But as far as kind of the regulations go, yeah, like Facebook can be really weird about regulating one thing one moment and not another. Another case in point is that I don't think it really used to get you banned, but your ads just wouldn't show as much, is if you had a lot of text on the image in an ad. So like if you just said, hey, buy now was the text there, that ad would probably get, like 2-3 years ago, that ad would get banned, or either banned, or they wouldn't show it quite as much as they would other ads, because there's text in the ad. They thought, hey, that's kind of a bad experience there. They kind of got rid of that restriction about 2-3 years ago or so. So now you can run ads with text on them, but they still probably don't show as well as if you just have a beautiful image in there or a beautiful video going, and so on and so forth. So yeah.
That's funny. There's been companies that have done extremely well for many years. Some doing 5 million plus per year, but their accounts get banned, and sometimes they get
Mhm.
banned left and right, whether it's a health compliance issue or whether
Mhm.
it's they just don't know. Repeated offense
Yeah.
against compliance if it is the creative, and that can be a huge pitfall, right? It's I guess part of it is the
Mhm.
preventive. I hate to sound like a grumpy dad or something, but part of maintaining a vehicle, a car, no matter how old or how new, is the preventive maintenance aspect. Because if we let things go for too long, a simple oil leak can turn into, a huge issue. And it's the same with your ads. If things aren't maintained in advance, at least just when things are due for an update, or, to avoid being shut down, things can just crumble, even if you're at the multi-million-dollar level, right? It's like, uh, do you have your own systems in place? Because for you, it's probably a completely natural process, something that you've
Mhm.
memorized. But for
Yeah.
people who are, if you and I were to partner with the client, or for people who have their own in-house ads managers or copywriters, is there something you can recommend for them to kind of just to be on top of things to avoid getting shut down? Because that can ruin a multi-million-dollar operation.
Yeah, I would say the probably the first thing that you want to do is just set aside a Saturday or a Sunday and just kind of read through Facebook's policy document there about kind of what is approvable on ads there. There's kind of a lot of stuff in there. Like you can't really do any weapons or guns or anything there. Although I had a colleague who had a client who was a gun shop owner, and they kind of figure out a way around that guideline by not holding up a gun, just holding up an invisible gun, doing this and like having the trigger sound go like on like a shotgun trigger go and like, hey, we sell like guns or something to that effect, got through the algorithm. But like if they would have shown an actual gun, would have got them banned. They have kind of restrictions on you know like kind of how much of a body part that you show. There was a time when I had a client that was all they sold was earrings, and they showed just the ear. And because they only showed the ear, like really, really scary body part, they showed the ear too much. That got their ads banned. I think the algorithm might have kind of adapted a little bit too, but usually got to show at least a little bit more, like the ear and a chin or something is kind of what they had to do to get around that. As far as kind of other guidelines that are kind of weird, you can't sell. I just learned from kind of the pet client there, you cannot sell organ. Like I knew you could not sell like live animals there, but you can't even sell organs there, which makes sense there. But that's kind of part of that will kind of get your ads banned if you kind of have if you kind of are a pet food and you sell like chicken neck, or if you like sell chicken necks to actual people, which to me is weird, but like some people like that there. I don't know. That can get you banned as well. There's kind of a lot. So I would say like the first step that I would say is just kind of like glance over, like set aside an hour, 2 hours, and glance over all of the policies. So you kind of just have a general idea of what may be okay, what may not be okay. CBD, I've talked to kind of like, people in the paraphernalia, let's call it that industry. I kind of talked to a couple of them, and technically for Facebook right now, it's not okay there, but there are some people that are just kind of finding creative ways, and I won't go into them here right now, but creative ways to get around that and stuff without getting banned, and they're doing okay. So yeah, there's kind of a lot of stuff they're going, or just kind of hire somebody who kind of knows a little bit more about policy. That might be kind of a shortcut to it, but otherwise you kind of want to sit down, like review the policy, the rules, and kind of go forward from there.
So that's the funny thing. Even if you're doing really, really well,
Mm-hmm.
or you're doing well enough, or it's some people just want a lifestyle business. I'll clear multiple six figures, or I've got to the multi-million-dollar level. Now I just want to live life. I just want to set things up to I have a few team members I can trust. I only want to work a few hours a week. But one bad ad, one bad creative, if you're a survival company selling those kinds of products, they have
Mm-hmm.
the, not necessarily prepper, but they have the survival tactical gear, which are really cool companies, by the way. I love that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
One bad ad can just really hurt them, right? It's if they're doing
Oh yeah.
good, save $500,000 per year or something. The business owners live love in life, and they have some guy who sets up creative with some guy cocking a shotgun on the video, and then they do that a couple times, and they can just, they can literally put a halt to their entire lead gen, or the entire funnel process.
Yeah, I guess if most of your leads if your funnel like heavily involves Facebook there, and then just suddenly your ad account is banned, then that can definitely be a challenge uh for your business. And I'd say like the best way, so kind of just to kind of give you a little bit more on my background here. Again, I used to kind of work as a contractor for Meta Facebook there for about 3.5 years or so. And one thing that like we kind of found over a while, because our department basically taught people how to do ads. There was another support department that determined if an ad is okay or not, and those people were not located in the same location at all. They might not even be located in the same country. I don't think they are anymore anyway. But one thing we kind of learned from interacting with them, because we had to kind of interact very similarly to how people outside of Meta Facebook would have to interact is that the nicer you are kind of to the support team there and kind of more kind of polite you are, is the better chance you have. It seems like common sense there, but like sometimes, like if you're frustrated, if you were making $1,000 a day, right? And then like suddenly your ad account got shut down and now you're making $0 a day and like you've got bills to pay there. People could be a little bit upset and a little bit heated, to say the least there, I would say. So like if you kind of first approach the support team as like, hey, you need to fix this right now, and then your chances of getting the thing fixed kind of decline. But if you're kind of polite as, oh, I know you're doing your best and whatnot, we've seen those issues kind of resolve themselves a lot quicker and easier. And yeah, again, should be common sense. But if you're like frustrated there, you just got your $1,000 a day account that was kind of making payroll there, and now you're not making payroll there. That could be be concern. Just take a deep breath, be respectful to the support people, and then try and adjust from there, I would say.
I've seen that happen a lot. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but during COVID, some people were taking advantage on Facebook. There were people who were selling legitimate supplements, nootropics is a big one, or performance, thinking clear, some things that help, just little things, uric acid supplements, things that help men's health, things like that. But during COVID, some people took advantage of saying it'll help you with COVID. Some people were not. They were completely ethical, but they were just, oh crap, there's all these updates and stuff. So they hit that troubleshooting process. And just like you said, some of them were doing 1,000 a day or more. Then it's just like, what the hell happened? I wasn't on top of things. I don't know what happened. I didn't have a guy like Darrell on my team, or, he wasn't as experienced as Darrell. And then it's kind of a troubleshooting process, right? Is it possible to kind of revive? Because it's not always possible to revive that kind of, I guess if it's repeated offenses where they got multiple accounts. Some people will try to set up dummy accounts and just be like, this is a Hail Mary to just keep our Facebook account alive. But is there like a troubleshooting process you would kind of recommend, no matter how simple, if
Sure. I would say I would recommend the bigger that your company or client gets there, the more likely it is a good investment just to set up multiple business managers, or like at least have 2 business managers going there just in case something goes awry. Because especially if you're kind of like on the verge or on the edge there, if you're like the tactical defense weapons or something like that, or like defense items there, maybe not even weapons there, if you're kind of on the verge of, or if you're kind of in the bikini niche or something like that, somewhere where like you're kind of like right on the edge of policy there, I would definitely have at least 2 business managers, and then probably multiple different ad accounts like within each of those business managers, just as kind of a backup there. Another thing that I would say is having multiple admins there, and like if it's just you and like let's say it's just you in your company and whatnot, or then I would probably like find a really good best friend to be also an admin on that business manager too, just because a lot of weird things happen. Actually, I'd say the biggest challenge right now in the last 6 months here is not so much like Facebook banning things, but hackers have gotten a little bit out of control there. I was actually, right before this call, I was talking to a client who had just like a client who's an agency, and they had just got hacked, and like 2 of their like clients' accounts were right. It was not the greatest feeling there. Luckily, I mean, knock on wood, like I have never been hacked myself, but I have like had multiple calls where like people are like, Darrell, I just got hacked. What do I do? But the latest thing that hackers are doing right now, and kind of Facebook is kind of cutting down on this, but they weren't doing a great job 6 months ago, is they like create pages that look like they're from Facebook or Meta or Instagram, there. They look very similar. Like they'll have the logo a little bit mixed up. I mean, 6 months ago, they had like an actual, they would just download a Facebook logo, put it up, like say, hey, Facebook business support, like we have a problem with your we have a problem with your ad account is about to be rejected or something. Please contact us as soon as possible. And then they put a scam link there. And once you click on that scam link, that's when the hacker goes and takes over your account. For this one, I'm not sure. Like they had two-factor authentication. One thing I would say to keep from getting hacked is definitely have two-factor authentication. I think they're trying to force people to do that now because of the fact that there are so many hackers out there. Because what the hacker will do is the moment they'll send you to a fake site that looks a lot like Facebook, have you log in, then they have your password, and then as soon as they got your password, they log into your account, like kick you out of it, and then they just start running their ads about like the dog's pet princess or something, like weird ads. They'll just start running weird ads so they can like make a quick buck and stuff, and they'll run it at $300 a day or something crazy in order to get try and get a quick buck there. And they know like support, especially this time of year, is going to take a while to like get to them. So by the time they have kind of spent through your money there, it's a little bit too late. So I'd say just kind of being very cautious, though. The way that most hackers approach it is either to send you an email or send you a message on Messenger and just say, hey, you are in violation of this thing on Facebook or that thing on Facebook. Take a real quick look at the page that it's coming from. Or if you get an email, take a real quick look at the email address. If it's Facebook, it should say fb.com, Facebook email, or facebook.com or meta.com or something to that effect. If it's like that. But if it's like one of my clients, they got in one of those emails last week, it was something like Mal's Consulting or something like that .com. Like that was clearly not like the Facebook and whatnot. They should just ignore that and delete that and block that email address, I should say. So
these things can be covered for days, right? Because there's some companies I work with where it's, some of their media buyers, for example, aren't as advanced as, they aren't that experienced. So we would kind of have to bring someone like you on to even train the team to get them up to speed, that kind of thing, right? Because if they're not as experienced, then there's always going to be more they can learn. They're always going to have to stay on top of things, right? Because it's these little things, sometimes it's interesting to generate the revenue and to see the results, but these pitfalls can be very, very serious. I mean, giving into hackers and all these little things can really become an extremely, extremely intimidating problem for any company.
Yeah. I'd say like getting your account hacked and then having people spend thousands of dollars of your credit card to advertise their widget is not a fun situation at all. So kind of staying away from that and just kind of not clicking on the links. Again, if it looks like a scam or sounds like a scam, it's probably a scam. But again, like 6 months ago, like they would actually take the Facebook logo or the Meta logo, put it on their fake page that they just made up. And now I think Facebook's caught on to that. So like it's kind of impossible to, I wouldn't say impossible. You'll maybe see it here soon, but it's harder for them just to upload a Facebook logo or a Meta logo and like then start spamming people with messages, which they do, that says, hey, like you hey, like we have noticed that your ad account is not doing. One other scam that I've kind of seen a couple times now, which I think they're switching to because of the fact that they can't use the same logo, is they will pretend to be a client there. They'll be like, oh, I bought your service and it was really, really poor, and I would like a refund. Can you please click on this link to see the stuff that I have? And that's getting really tricky there. Like you because you want to be of service to your clients there, but if some people are just trying to scam you, then like how can you tell there? But kind of looking at the profile, seeing how long that profile has been around and stuff is kind of usually a good step there.
That's amazing. There's just stuff that's just going to happen forever. This is
Yeah.
what's happened till present day, the next three, 2025, 2030, year 2040. These things are going to continually evolve. And it's not just Facebook, back then it was Google ads and Yahoo ads and AOL and all sorts of very old school forms of advertising, but these issues are going to be ongoing. It's not just, how do you excel at Facebook advertising, but it's also how do you stay on top of things and be an amazing marketer 10, 20 years from now, or set up your company or your clients for success. But so Darrell, if someone wants to get a hold of you and the carte blanche media, is
Mhm.
there, do you have a website we can go to and offer you're promoting, or email, or?
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. My website address is carteblanchemedia.us, and I'll spell that out. It's CARTEBLANCHE media dot us or US there. So that's kind of my email address. Anybody can contact me there. You can also shoot me an email, Darrell at carteblanchemedia.us there, and or feel free to interact with me on the socials there. Actually, also on my website right now here, as we're recording this there, I have kind of the top 5 mistakes there that people kind of make with Facebook ads. If you kind of just give your email real quick there, you can go ahead and find out those 5 mistakes there, and kind of worries on how to avoid them as well.
So that's carteblanchemedia.us. We can go on there and just, see the top 5 mistakes that we should avoid, because these things can really be a lifesaver. So it's CARTEBLANCHE.us or media.
Media.us.
My
Yeah.
apology,
Yep.
media.us. Cool.
Yep.
So,
All right.
yeah, I definitely head over there. I think I'm going to head over there right after this interview, because these are really, really important things, not just for ourselves, but if we work for clients or companies too.
Absolutely. So yeah, but thank you so much for the time, John. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Darrell.
Yeah. Have a
Yep.
great day.
Thanks again for joining us. We enjoyed having you sit there right next to us in your virtual seat, and I hope the feeling was mutual. Don't forget to rate, share, and subscribe to the Authority Marketing Podcast. And if you'd like, check out some other episodes we got. Stay tuned for our next one.